DreAllDay.com.
You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. This is that go-getter energy that moves you to make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Putting all this together, you get the mindset, the method, the podcast known as Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day. Welcome to the show. Today's topic is dealing with the doubt that creeps in when you are looking at your own creation. Or maybe as some of you may know it as imposter syndrome. How do you deal with that imposter, that idea that something that you created maybe is not worth what you're planning on charging for it? Maybe that book that you wrote is not as insightful as you thought it was when you first started writing it. Maybe that online course doesn't have as much knowledge and insight and strategy as you thought it did. Maybe the product you're about to start selling is not really worth the price tag that you have put on it. Maybe the podcast episode you recorded, you should just ditch it, trash it, and not put out a podcast like you've been thinking about for 6 months. Maybe you shouldn't be blogging anymore. Maybe you don't need to contact your email list. Maybe you shouldn't do this webinar. Maybe you are unqualified to do this interview that you've been scheduled to do. How do you deal with the doubt that creeps in when you have created something? And I'm going to tell you something about creating, whether that be a podcast episode, something that you put out for free, a YouTube video, a book that comes at a low price tag, an online course that comes at a little bit higher price tag, a consultation or a speaking gig that comes at a much higher price tag. When you look at it, when you've done it, when you have looked at the material, heard the material, rehearsed the material, created the material, edited and rehashed the material over and over and over and over and over again, as an author does with a book, for example, you're going to come to a point where you are sick of your own content. That's how it goes. This is the process. Now, when I wrote Work on Your Game, the book that many of you have read, if you have not read Work on Your Game, go to DreAllDay.com/order to get my book, Work on Your Game. It's on Amazon, it's on Audible, it is on Kindle, and I'm 100% on that audio book, just in case you didn't know. When I wrote that book, by the time it got to the final rounds of editing, when I had to go over a chapter again and over this section again and reread the whole thing again, I got tired of it. I got sick of the book. I got sick of the material. I was so familiar with the material. This is many of these things I've been talking about for so many years. Looking at this over and over and over again, I started thinking to myself, wait, is this actually any good? Is this material actually going to be useful to anybody? And this is something that happens to everyone. I don't care how good they are, how long they've been in the game, how many things they created, how many products they've sold, how much money they made, how many fans they got. We all have this kind of questioning or doubt or imposter syndrome, whatever you want to call it, creeping in when we've created something ourselves, because we're so close to it, we're so familiar with it, we've been doing it for so long, it's so normal to us, we don't think this will be insightful or interesting or valuable to anybody other than ourselves. We don't think anybody else is going to see value in it because we are so used to it that we don't see that much value in it anymore, because familiarity breeds contempt. I'm like, man, I don't want to read this damn chapter again. I'm not sure this book is this book even good anymore? Is anybody going to actually like this and want to read it? You may feel you have done all this work. When you're doubting your creations, you're like, man, I might have did all this work, put all this time in for nothing, because this right here is not as great as I thought it would be when I first started. But today I'm going to tell you how I deal with such feelings and how you will as well. Again, the topic, point number one, is dealing with the doubt of your own creations. Point number one is reread your resume. This is something that my sister, Dre Baldwin Clark, said that someone advised her to do. And this is back in episode number 721, if you didn't hear my interview with my sister, Dre Baldwin Clark. But she said whenever she feels doubt about herself, and my sister's a law professor at UCLA, by the way. But whenever she feels doubt about herself, when she would be going into an interview and she was doubting herself, like, man, am I really worthy of this job that I'm about to interview for, or worthy of whatever I'm going to ask for at this job, am I worthy of this position? Someone told her, reread your resume every time you feel that way. Look at the things that you've done. Look at the things you've achieved that put you in the spot to be where you are right now. Look at the reviews of the products that you've sold, the customers who you've helped in the past. Look at the testimonials and the kind words of people who you worked with and worked for. Remember where you've been and what you've done and what put you in position to even be doing what you're about to do in the first place. Sometimes it's as simple as just remembering why you started. If you're an athlete, that's why you got to make your highlight video. Look at your highlight video. Look what you've done. Look at your stats from the past. Look at those jerseys you have framed and hanging up on the wall. Remember your best accomplishments. Write them down. The best accomplishments you ever had in your life. You should have a list of those accomplishments written down and handy somewhere in your phone or in a book that's close by to wherever you are for the majority of your day, to where you can look at it and see, oh, you know what, I did do that. You know what, I did accomplish that. Oh, you know how good it felt when I did that thing right there. Rereading your resume, you're not doing it because you just want to feel yourself, or you want to get arrogant, or you just want to be smelling your own urine. You're doing it because you need to remind yourself consciously and subconsciously of the accomplishments you've accomplished in the past, so you remember that you're actually worthy, that you're more than worthy of what you're about to do in the future. That's why you keep your resume. And when I say resume, I don't just mean your work resume, but the things you've done, your greatest accomplishments, the things of which you are most proud. Keep them close by so you can remind yourself of them whenever you need them. Whenever you feel some doubt creeping in, reread that resume. Go look at those goals. Go look at those goals that you've achieved already. Go look at the things you've already done. Look at your trophies. Look at your plaques. Look at your awards. Remember how you felt when you achieved that great accomplishments. You need those around. Don't bury them in the closet. You need those around so you can see them, to remind yourself that you've done this before and you can create success again. Point number 2. Today's topic is dealing with the doubt of your own creations. Put it out anyway. You're doubting that book that you wrote, put it out anyway. If it's trash, so what? Write another book. You're doubting yourself before that big game, playing the game anyway. If you have a bad game, get on another team playing another game. You're doubting that podcast episode you put out a podcast every day. So if you put out a whack one, people will forget about tomorrow because you got a new one out that's better. When you are doubting your creation, put that equation out there anyway. In the marketing world, they call it shipping. Ship your product. All right, like in Amazon, you get 2-day shipping, Amazon Prime. You got to ship the product. If the product's no good, then you can fix it in version 2.0. If the product's no good, you can make a brand new product. All right, if the product's no good, let your consumers decide and tell you that the product's no good. Let the audience tell you that the product's no good. Don't defeat yourself by telling yourself that it's no good. Let the audience tell you what they think about it, because the audience might say this is fucking amazing. And so if you think you could do even better, then that means they'll buy the next product. But put it out anyway. Maybe the public will actually love it. And you're like, okay, all right, it actually is good. If they hate it, at least now you know that they hate it. You'll have the experience of putting out something that they hated. You'll realize that you didn't die. Nobody killed you. There was no executioner who knocked on your door because people didn't like your product. And you can find out why they didn't like it, because you can ask them, hey, why didn't you like this? What did you not like about this? You can read the reviews and see what people said about it. Now you can get better on the next one. You have the experience under your belt now. And if they completely ignored it, what if they just ignored it? What if nobody said it was good? Nobody said it was bad because nobody consumed it in the first place. Nobody paid any attention. Well, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. If nobody pays any attention to what the work that you did, so you're not sure if they thought it was good or bad. Actually, you know they didn't think either way. They thought nothing at all of it. Here's the thing. You won't be embarrassed about that because nobody knows about it. See, they ignored it. See, if they ignored your product, you don't need to feel embarrassed. Embarrassment is a feeling that you know. Embarrassment is a feeling of you failing and you knowing that a bunch of people know about it. But see, if nobody knows about it, then what reason do you have to be embarrassed? And nobody saw it. Now, if everybody saw you fail, then that's one thing. But if everybody saw you fail, then that means you'll have a whole lot of feedback on why you failed and what you can do better next time. So now you got a whole bunch of information, a solid foundation to work on the next thing that you do. But if nobody saw you fail, if nobody saw you succeed, if nobody saw you do anything, because you can't be a failure or a success, you don't have any outside feedback or based on the way that we're talking about here today, then there's no reason to be embarrassed. Nobody knows about it. They ignored it. They didn't see it. The tree fell in the forest. No one heard it. It does not make a sound. Point number 3. Today's topic is dealing with the doubt of your own creations. Start working on the next creation. That's what you need to do. When you're doubting the creation that you're putting out today, start working on the creation that you're going to put out tomorrow. Wait, tomorrow, Dre, you putting out something else? Yes, we're putting out something else tomorrow. Start working on the next creation. In the game group, business section, I talk about how I create products, how I create content, whether it be something that's free or something that's paid. Creating that next piece of content. The reason why is because people like you and people like me, when I'm on the consumer side of things, I'm a creator right now when I'm talking, but when I turn this camera off, when I turn this mic off, I become a consumer. I get on Instagram, I listen to podcasts, I watch a YouTube video every now and then. We're all consumers and creators. We have an insatiable appetite for content. How much content can you take in one day? If you were to just think about that, how many YouTube videos and podcast episodes and TV shows do you watch in one day? Watch or consume in one day? And blog posts. If you add up all the blog posts, emails that are written for somebody to read, like not an email like somebody asking you a question, but an email that's like somebody wrote an article and they sent it via email. YouTube videos, emails, podcast episodes, TV series shows. How many of those do you consume in one day? If you just put a 1 for each one, how many do you consume in one day? 5, 10, 20, 30? So you as the creator, when you're on the creator side of things, you think if you just made 1 a week, that's going to be enough to keep people's attention? That's going to be enough to keep people remembering you? Now, are there people out there who do it? Yeah, they're really good. If they have one big hit record, so to speak, and I talked about this in my book, Work on Your Game, that puts them out there to the point that they can do 1 a week, then it's all right. If they choose to do 1 a week because that's just what they want to do, they got other things going on, that's fine. But listen, people have the appetite to take it in every day if you got it every day. And the thing about putting it out every day, even if you're doing it for free, like I do with this podcast, this is not just a charitable act out of the kindness of my heart. I can do this podcast 3 times a week and get 3 times the mileage out of, well, not 3 times, twice the mileage out of the exact same amount of material, 7 days to 3 days, right? The reason why I can do it every single day is because all of this content is going to become other stuff in the future. All this content becomes the source material for my books, source material for my courses, source material for people that I coach, source material for stuff that I go deeper in when you get into the game group membership. So this stuff is not just being done for nothing. This is part of the work on the game. All right, there's another game that's happening outside of this that this is the work for. And there's work that I'm doing outside of this podcast that the game is this podcast. So you see each thing goes up another level. It's like walking up a flight of steps. You got the podcast, and then you got the game group membership. And you have coaching, you got consulting, you got speaking, you got books. There's another level that everything goes to. I'm telling you that to tell you this. You start working on the next piece of material immediately after you put out the first piece of material because people want the next piece of material. People love what you just put out. They are waiting for the next thing to come out. They're not going to wait forever because look how much content everybody else is putting out against yours. Either way, good, bad, or indifferent, you will want the next one ready. People loved it, they want the next one. If people hated it, you want to put out the next one so you can forget about the last one. And if they were indifferent, then it's like you didn't put out anything. So now it's time to make some noise. Now it's time for somebody to hear that tree falling in the forest. You understand what I'm saying? So either way, you need to put the next one out. This refocuses you. When you know you're putting another one out immediately, it refocuses you and gets your mind off of the old one. Whether the old one was amazing or the old one was terrible. If it was amazing, it's already history. Tex Winter, who was an assistant coach with Phil Jackson during the Chicago Bulls heyday, he passed away about a year or so ago. But he was the one who actually brought that famed triangle offense to the NBA. But Tex Winter was fond of saying, listen, as soon as you accomplish something and you're celebrating that accomplishment, it's already old. All right, as soon as you raise the trophy, that accomplishment is already old because you got the trophy in your hand. That means it happened, past tense. It's time to create something new. As soon as you get the award, as soon as you show up to the banquet, as soon as you get the trophy, as soon as you get the medal, as soon as you're taking the pictures to commemorate your success, is already an old success. Now what you gonna do next? It refocuses you and gets your mind off this one and builds on the experience of what you just did. Let's recap today's topic, dealing with the doubt of your own creations. Everybody who creates things, I don't care how good, how new, how great, how terrible, at some point you're going to start hating that creation simply because you're too familiar with it, you're too close to it, everybody goes through it, you start to feel like maybe you did all that work for nothing. But I'm going to tell you today how I deal with it and how you'll deal with it too. Number one, reread your resume. You need to have a list of all your accomplishments in life. Whatever you've accomplished that you're proud of, you need to have it written down somewhere. You can look at it, remind yourself how you felt, what you did, how you did it, and why you are worthy of the position that you're in right now. Remember where you've been and what you've done. Sometimes it's as simple as just remembering why you started. Point number two, when you're doubting your creations, put it out anyway. Maybe the public will think it's amazing. You don't have to like it. If the public loves it, then that means you need to keep doing it. If they hate it, at least now you know because they'll give you feedback. You have the experience to find out why and make the next one better. And if they completely ignore it, you don't have any reason to feel embarrassed because nobody knew about it. They ignored it, right? Point number three, start working on the next one. In the game group, I'm going to tell you about how and why I create products and how I create the next one, the next one, and the next one. Either way, if it was great, you got to move on to the next one because that's old already. If it was terrible, move on to the next one so you can get that bad one out of your mind. And if people are indifferent, that means you might as well have not done anything. Do another one. So now you got the experience of the first one. Now you can change some things up and put another one out. And now you got something that made some noise and now you can get some reaction from the people. It builds on the experience of what you've been through, whether it was positive, negative, or completely neutral. It refocuses you and gets your mind off the old thing. Good, bad, or indifferent is old. As soon as it happened and you're talking about it in the past tense, it's old, it's time to move on to something new. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com. Nobody out there needs more information. What you need these days is a strategy, frameworks, processes, how to actually take all the information that's out there, all the knowledge and content that's out there, make sense of it, and actually produce a result, a tangible result. That's why I created the Game Group. It is my membership site where you will get tangible results for specific areas: business, personal development, basketball skill, and professional basketball. Choose your area of focus, and we have targeted, specified outcomes every single month, along with live trainings, the ability to contact me, have your work critiqued by me, and a whole lot of other stuff. The link and all the information is down in the description at DreAllDay.com/membership. Get in the Game Group if you're ready to get some results and not just a whole bunch of information. Let's do it. Work on your game.